last week, a third of the country, life got harder. Why? Because of interest rates. The bloke who should have been held responsible, well, he's allowed to get away with distractions like this.
To assure the Australian people that even with the disintegration of the coalition, even with their kind of unedifying attempts to just try and be a paler shade of orange, the government's very focused on the cost of living, on housing, on our economic challenges, and we won't be distracted by the bin fire.
Well, as opposed to the redder shade of green, but again, about the Treasurer. Now, we are caught in this boring, repetitive cycle that happens every year under every government, which is what feels like months, but it's probably only a few weeks. Will you rule it in and will you rule it out about a budget? And all sorts of things are told to us that if they do this one thing, everything will be saved. And if they make this one decision, the sky will fall in. But the reality of Australian politics is that regardless of who ends up in power, the government always finds a way to try to hand out more money. Now, this government has spent more money than any government in the history of ever in Australia, and they want to pretend that that does not have any sort of a stimulatory effect on the economy and thus means inflation starts to go up and Reserve Bank needs to get involved and pull the handbrake.
You said government spending was not a factor in the decision. Was it a factor?
Well, David, our political opponents and their acolytes are deliberately and dishonestly trying to conflate two different things.
Yeah, don't you love that? As one of the acolytes being suggested there. He thinks we're too dumb to notice what they're doing. And anyone who has come to a position that is critical of a government that is going to be running 10 budget deficits ahead of 40 budget deficits, according to his own Treasury and the intergenerational report of a couple of years ago, that we are the ones who are trying to miscue the problem. Well, of course, what he is also ignoring is that the very person who sits at the table that makes the very decision about whether interest rates go up or not, well, it kind of matters what her opinion is. Now, because she's independent, yet, of course, the government decides who's on the Reserve Bank, they can help change or finesse or rig, depending on your language, the rules of how the Reserve Bank works. They never really want to get out of step with the government. So they say that government spending is part of the story, but it's not the whole story. But then sometimes they have to get into a scenario that's not a press conference. When you're giving evidence before a parliamentary committee where you kind of have to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, a little bit like you're in court. So, Reserve Bank Governor, about government spending, please.
Mathematically, you're right. Public demand, expenditure and private sector, all of that adds to demand. That's logical, it's mathematical, that's what happens.
But of course, dare point out any problems with this government. Don't you just like, they've got all the different ways, right? If you criticise them, it's because you're part of the far right, the extreme right. Or they just come out and call you dumb. And that's pretty much what, of course, the Treasurer is doing. And because of the problems that I sadly spend too much time talking about, and I don't want to talk about them, because the target in terms of a better country is doing any and everything that you can to point out the failures of this government in order to change this government. But alas, if an election was held this weekend, they'd get even more seats than the 90 plus they got at the last election. Can you believe it? Unbelievable.